Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sugar-Free Advantage channel. I'm Tony Lapetina. This is my partner, Karen Bentley.
Hi, everybody.
And today we're going to talk about making smart sugar-conscious choices when you're dining out. We've talked a lot about reading ingredients and other ways to determine what the sugar levels are in food, but it's kind of hard to do that when you're dining out. People in the kitchen aren't likely to bring labels out for you to read. So Karen's got some tips on how to handle it when you're dining out. Take it away,
Thanks,
Karen.
Tony. Thank you. So I'd like to start out by sharing a story about my good friend Greta. Every January 1st, Greta measures her waist and she steps on the scale, and she's been doing this for about 45 years. She's a 60-something woman. She's very fashionable. She went to Berkeley. She considers herself very health aware. She tries to walk 3 times a week for at least 20 minutes. She wants to eat healthy. She thinks she eats healthy. And that last January 2020, her measurements were just about 2 pounds heavier, which she wasn't too bummed out about, but she was 1.5 inches bigger around her waist. And she was really bummed out about that.
Yeah.
And of course, I never asked Greta her weight because, you know, girlfriends don't do that.
Oh. Nope.
But I would say, you know, I wouldn't call her, fat. I would call her chunky. You know, maybe she carries it well. She's a tall woman. She carries her weight well. It's not something I notice about her because she always dresses so well. And but she was very concerned about her waist. So I thought that what we would do is go over what Greta ate. We went out to dinner early last year before the COVIDs came upon us. And I thought we would review what Greta ate and see if we can figure out what she's doing or not doing. What do you think about that, Tony?
That's a great way to start it. Absolutely.
Okay, so Tony's going to bring up a spreadsheet and he's going to write down what Greta's eating. Okay, take it away, Tony. I'll just say the things.
Hold on, coming up. There we go.
All right. So the first thing she had was 2 rolls with the tiniest bit of butter. Good.
Everybody's going to see how lousy I type here. Go ahead.
The next thing she had was 2 glasses of Pinot Grigio. Next thing she had was a house salad with croutons and low-fat dressing. Next thing she had was baked haddock with a little bit of tartar sauce.
Oh boy.
Good. She had a serving of plain asparagus, no butter. She had French fried sweet potatoes because she thought sweet potatoes were healthier than other plain white potatoes. And her special treat was she shared 1/2 of a carrot cake with her husband. So Tony, what kind of eating strategy is Greta following? Just by looking at what she ate, what kind of eating strategy do you think it is?
I'd say low carb.
I'd say,
Except for the carrot cake.
Yeah, I'd say low fat.
Okay,
I'd say she was making pretty consistent low fat choices for the most part.
okay, yeah, yeah, definitely.
So let's and in terms of a low fat strategy, how did Greta do you think?
Small amount of butter, a little bit of wine, low fat dressing, baked haddock as opposed to fried, for example. Asparagus with no butter. She probably blew it on the carrot cake, but she only had half a slice.
Yeah, I mean, she did pretty good for a low fat strategy,
Yeah.
don't you think?
Yes.
I think you know, I don't see any egregious eating problems, but
Yeah, nothing over the top.
I thought that we could look at it in terms of a sugar conscious strategy and see if there's a difference. And
Okay.
the tool we're going to use to see if there's a difference is the glycemic index. Do you remember what that is?
It's a way of measuring, sugar content.
Exactly. It's when your body digests a food, how much sugar is in your blood. That's what the
That's
glycemic
in the
index
blood.
measures.
That's the part I forgot. Yeah, sugar in the blood.
Yeah, and as I've explained in some other videos, the glycemic index is an imperfect tool. I liken it to half a shovel, but it's the only tool we have, so we're going to use it, even though it only measures half the problem, because the glycemic index only measures sugar, I'm sorry, it only measures glucose, and in table sugar, it is an equal parts of glucose and fructose, and the glycemic
Right.
index does not measure fructose. So we're only going to get half the picture, but we'll have to make do, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, so in terms of the glycemic index, what do you think a role is?
Boy, the whole glycemic index business is a little bit new to me. I remember in a previous video, if anybody's seen it, Karen did a breakdown of the glycemic index on a number of breads. And I remember those figures. This is 2 rolls with a small amount of butter. So I'm going to guess somewhere in the 40s or 50s.
Actually, it would be around 73.
Whoa.
A bread is a white, plain white bread is pretty high on the glycemic index. It's higher than sugar. Sugar is around 64 or 65, and 2 small white bread rolls would be around 73 or 74. Does butter have any sugar, Tony?
No.
No, because butter is what kind of food?
Well, it's dairy, so it's from animals.
It's a fat, and fat doesn't have sugar, but the body can break it down to sugar if it has to. So if you're in a starvation situation, or if you're on a special diet, like a keto diet, for example, your body can break that down into glucose if it has to, but it doesn't want to. So, you know, butter has no value on the glycemic index. How about Pinot Grigio? Do you think that's high in sugar or not?
Oh, I believe it is.
What would you guess?
I'm not sure how to compare liquids to solids like bread, but I'm going to say 50 to 70.
Yeah, I would guess it higher than it is too, but it's only 15.
Whoa.
I know. Drink up.
Interesting. Is that because of the carbs that are in the bread that aren't in the wine?
Yeah, because of the carbs that are in the wine. The problem with drinking is that like a straight alcohol has no carbs whatsoever. But what's the problem with drinking?
Well, other than alcohol, I don't know. I'm not sure what. Go ahead.
Because it makes you not care.
No, that kind of problem with drinking. Okay.
So
go for the psychological problem.
Yeah, after you have a couple of drinks, maybe you stop caring about eating consciously. So it just relaxes your consciousness and your inhibitions, and you just say, well, I'll get it the next time. How
Gotcha.
about house salad? Does that have much of a glycemic index?
Without the dressing, it kind of depends what's in there, but for the most part, I'd say it should be pretty low.
Yeah, we're not even going to count it. It's so low. How about the croutons?
Well, I
That are-
guess kind of depends what they're made from. If they're toasted white bread, for example, they could be they could be close to or the same as the
Yeah.
rolls.
We're going to add 73.
Okay.
Back up on the other one on 4.
Oh.
Can you put 0 plus 73?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Will it let you do that?
I'll put that.
And how about the low fat dressing? What's your guess on that?
Again, I mean, it depends whether it's it's a traditional Italian with oil and vinegar and spices, or if it's a creamy one, which is more likely to have some sugar in it. I'm not sure of. I mean, low fat, there are creamy ones that are low fat also. So that one I don't know.
Yeah, low fat dressings are typically filled with sugar. So we're going to assume that that's what it has, that it's got a lot of sugar in it, because that's how manufactured salad dressings are to make them taste good. They add a lot of sugar to it. So we're going to add the glycemic index for sugar, which is 64.
Okay.
All right. So how's Greta doing so far, sugar conscious wise?
Not as good as she thinks.
Not as good as you think. How about the baked haddock? Does that have any sugar in it?
Depends if they top it with something, like crumbled Ritz crackers or something like that, which is going to bring it higher. If they simply baked it with some oil or spices on it, I'd say it'd be pretty low on its own without the tartar sauce.
Yeah, maybe it would be nothing because it's a protein.
Maybe it would.
There's no sugar in fats or proteins, so we're going to give her a big O, and we're going to assume the tartar sauce is just mayonnaise and made without sugar, so we're not going to count that. How about the asparagus?
0.
0.
If there's no
Good.
butter, 0.
Yeah, so that's a 0. And even with the butter, she could have given herself.
Yeah,
she could have given herself some butter.
She could have had a nicer little treat there, I guess.
How about the French fried sweet potatoes? What's your guess on that, Tony?
I'm thinking somewhere near lower than bread, but higher than the wine. Pretty big range there, but I'm thinking, there's some sugar in it, like there is, or not. Now I'm second guessing myself. Go ahead.
Sweet potatoes. Okay, ready for this? 76.
I was almost going to say close to bread. Wow.
That's pretty stunning, isn't it?
That's up there.
And how about the carrot cake?
Oh my God.
What do you think the carrot cake is?
Way up there, I think. I mean, if it's traditional carrot cake made with the cream cheese frosting and, half a pound of sugar in the frosting and a bunch in the batter, that's got to be up there.
88.
Oof. And we have a winner, 88.
How did Greta do on her sugar awareness? She did pretty bad.
Did pretty poorly. I bet she thought she was doing well, but not the case.
She thought she was being a diet angel because she had fish and asparagus.
Right.
And she was stingy with the butter.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And she only had a half a piece of carrot cake.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it as a total, it's really quite stunning, don't you think?
It is. I mean, how does the 389, how does that compare with a recommended intake or a recommended glycemic index for either a meal or a day?
Well, she's way over the top on this one. There is no recommendation on the glycemic index for a day or a meal, but I can tell you right now, her body's making insulin and triglycerides on this one.
Yes.
We can go back to our split screen.
Okay. Here we are.
Hi. So I want to read to you a few excerpts from some news magazines from some respected sources. This one is from Newsweek, and it says, a study by Catherine Tucker, a nutritional epidemiologist at Tufts, suggests that where your calories come from might also make some difference. In her study, participants ate roughly the same number of calories, but those who consumed more white bread, rice, pasta, and other refined carbohydrates tended to add fat disproportionately around the middle, even without a big change in weight. Does that sound like anybody we are talking about?
And Greta.
And Greta. Here's another one. This is from Scientific American.
Pretty credible.
Pretty credible. Eating carbohydrates such as white bread and white rice can very quickly be broken down to glucose, the primary fuel for the body. The refining process produces an easily absorbed form of starch. Eating a boiled potato raises blood sugar levels higher than eating the same amount of calories from table sugar. Isn't that stunning?
Whoa. Boy, that's a surprise.
In our epidemiological studies, we have found that a high intake of starch from refined grains and potatoes is associated with a high risk of type 2 diabetes and coronary heart disease. Pretty stunning.
Yeah.
I just have one more, okay?
And disappointing, I might add, for a potato lover like me.
I know, it's a bummer, isn't it? Here's one from Time magazine. I just have one more thing to read.
Another credible source.
Carbohydrates in the amount we commonly consume, particularly sugar and other refined carbohydrates. So when they're saying refined carbohydrates, they're talking about bread. They're talking about carrot cake.
Yeah.
Are often prime saboteurs of our weight. What's more, cutting back on them, especially on wheat, seems to produce improvements in energy, mood, and sleep for many patients. So there you go.
And getting rid of wheat in your diet has other positive effects too, some more significant than others.
So what could Greta have done to made some smarter choices, Tony? What do you think she could have done? What's one thing she could have done?
Let's go back and look at that chart for a minute.
Okay.
Well, she certainly could have done without the carrot cake and had something less, with a much lower glycemic index.
Exactly.
She could have dropped the croutons from the salad.
She could have
still had a salad and a nice dressing.
Yep.
Lose the croutons. Skip the roll before dinner.
Yep, or at least just have one.
Or just one. Yeah. That's one thing my wife's after me all the time about. I gravitate toward having bread and butter while I'm waiting for my meal.
Yeah.
After I say yes, she tells the waitress or the waiter no.
Yeah.
Sometimes I win, sometimes I don't.
One trick is to not let them bring it to the table.
Yes, that's a big thing. Yeah, because once it's there, forget it.
Once it's on the table, it's harder.
Yep.
One strategy Greta could have done, she's got, let's look at the types of food that she was eating to drive her glycemic index way up. So she was eating products made with flour. So she had the rolls, and she had the croutons, and she had the carrot cake. And then she was eating a starch. She had the French fried potatoes, and then she was eating straight sugar. So that was in the low fat dressing and also in the carrot cake. One strategy is to just pick one of those things, like to
well, pick one of them to do without. Don't do the bread and butter at the beginning of the meal. Don't do carrot cake for dessert. There's got to be other choices out there that aren't as high.
right.
Don't put croutons.
Or pick the one thing you really want and leave the rest out. So for example, you mentioned you like potatoes. I like potatoes too. So if I was going to give myself a treat, I would give myself those nasty potatoes because that would be the most satisfying thing to me. But I would live without the carrot cake and the bread.
Yeah.
Just give yourself one treat, because if you're eating out frequently, which people used to do before the time of COVID, if you're eating out a couple of lunches or a couple of nights each week, I mean, you can really sabotage yourself pretty quickly with all this high glycemic index type food.
Absolutely.
So you have to eat more consciously, and you have to pick what you're going to give yourself and maybe let the rest go.
Yeah.
Does that
makes a lot of sense, especially when you put numbers to it.
So what are the three kinds? We can go back to the split screen, Tony.
Here we are.
What happened to me? Where am I?
You're on my screen, so it's still being recorded.
I am?
Keep going. Yeah.
All right. What are the three types of foods that we need to be conscious of when we're going out to eat or even preparing a meal at home? What are the three types of foods that are most likely to increase our blood sugar?
Refined products like bread.
Breads.
Things, well, I don't know if you put carrot cake in the same category, because that's refined sugar also. Lost it.
Okay. Well, anything made with flour, with flour.
Yeah.
Anything made with a caloric sweetener.
Mm-hmm.
And any starch like a potato. So those are the three categories of food. So you don't even really need the glycemic index if you just remember those three categories, because those three categories are always going to be the villains in this story.
Flour,
so
flour, sugar, starch.
Yeah, flour, sugar, starch. Just remember those three things. And if you're eating out and you want to indulge yourself, pick the substance that you want the most and let the other two go. That would be my advice.
Yeah, that's easy to remember, I think. I'm going to put it to work if I ever get to go out to eat again.
If we ever do. Okay, well, that's all I wanted to share with you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Karen. Very useful information for my benefit anyway, and I hope the viewers will feel the same. Nice work. Thank you.
Bye for now.
All right. Bye, everybody. Stay well. We'll see you next time. Take care.